COVID-19 inside the facility. We're probably facing a crisis as urgent as anything that we faced back in March and April. We greatly appreciate the leadership of Warden Shell and his team. The decision to not admit any more residents is clearly the right decision. And there's been any number of decisions that he's made to try to mitigate and make everybody safe inside. I do think that public understanding of what's happening in the jail has been somewhat hampered by the CDT and other reports that made it seem as if there were only cases of staff and guards and not inside among the residents. But the dashboard made it clear that there are, at least as of yesterday, I think 29 new cases among the residents, and I might not be reading that correctly. It's a pretty serious issue, and the Prison Society is concerned with the well-being of both the residents and the staff. So I'm calling today on the board to discuss the possibilities of early release for people who are already inside the facility. And I understand that this may already be something that folks are considering within their own purview, but I think that a public discussion of this issue is important. I don't have the perfect facts, and I'm not an expert on the justice system in Centre County, but I do recognize that the majority of people inside the jail are unsentenced. And we also know that there's been an uptick in the number of people who are there for parole violations. So there are a number of different players that might be involved in trying to figure out how to get people released. There's also people who are sentenced but may be close to finishing their sentence, and that could be modified. I just wanted to invite you to help the public understand what might be done to try to maintain the safety of these people. I just want to make one more comment about the vaccine. I just wrote to the Department of Health asking them to move faster in getting the vaccine for people in the next category after the 1A. And if I'm reading it correctly, prisons would be considered to be a congregate setting where, and it's important not just to the health of the people there, but to the people in the community, because people go in and out of the jail. If you can take these steps, they would be life-saving measures, because right now, as I understand it, people are being doubled up, not proven cases of the coronavirus, but people who might have it and it hasn't been proven yet might be doubled up. And so there's a space issue here. And again, I have no qualms with how the warden or the staff have been handling this, but I think that they could use the help of the other partners in the county. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. And just to mention, what we'll do is, so we get our agenda ready about a week ahead of time, just because of the flow of things in the county and with our business operations. And so then we publish it on Monday and we get it out there. And so many of the things that you're talking about in terms of some early release potentials and whatnot, even though they're not on the agenda, the warden will be discussing them underneath, talking a little bit about them, and can do that underneath our COVID-19 correctional facility operations, which would be item 5B. And so when we get down there, he will definitely speak to those, and we can give you some perspective on those. Just in terms of how the agenda will run, we will certainly get to that. But yes, that will be, we can talk about that and make sure that that's something we have a conversation about. And I know the warden would be happy to do that. So absolutely. And we've just briefly, we have shown a commitment. As you mentioned, the dashboard, we were over 200 individuals in February, and by June we had gotten that total number down, the individuals incarcerated, to about 120. So we reduced it by about 100 individuals through a really focused approach, working with the district attorney, the judges, probation, the correctional facility, to make sure that we were doing that in a very safe and effective manner. And it's worked out really productively. So, but we do have a commitment to do that, to work through that. And again, the warden and his team at the facility have done that. But we can maybe address that as we get into that item in the agenda. So thank you very much. Janet. So we did have somebody else who wanted to make public comment, and you had, right as Janet was saying it, you had offered it. So yeah, we would turn the floor over to you at that point.
Good morning. My name is Christy
Hello.
Bernhard. I'm part of Center County.
Good morning.
I have more questions, I guess, than comments. If I don't know if I can ask those. Is the warden present?
He is, yes, and typically what
Okay.
public comment allows you to do is just to basically provide your 2 cents. And so,
Okay.
and the challenge with doing a back and forth at public comment is it can, it can go on for some time. But what you can do is, if you wanted to ask your questions throughout the meeting, we can address them to the best of our ability. But it would be difficult right now to sort of do a back and forth. But
Sure.
but we can certainly have our team address them as we go forward. So please.
So basically, my one question was how many active cases positive right now in the jail? How many inmates are on quarantine? And I'd really like to address how the outbreak is being handled within the prison as far as the inmates, communication, et cetera. And I really just want to send out a reminder to the warden of the CCCF core values, which quote states correctional personnel need to be problem solvers rather than task oriented, put the concerns of others before their own, prevent inmates from setting the ground rules, recognize their limitations, respect inmates, and take pride in their work and their profession. Professionalism, integrity, dependability, and effectiveness, end quote. And I think Janet touched base on a lot of my comments that I would have had. And Janet, I appreciate your voice in this matter, and I appreciate what you do. And that's all I had.
Okay, Christy, thank you so much very
Hello.
much. Just briefly, sorry. So Christy, thank you for addressing that. We will, the warden, again, as we get into COVID-19 items on the agenda, we can address that. So thank you for those questions and for your comments.
Great,
Did we have?
thank you.
You're welcome, certainly. Did somebody else have and also we should say there is a chat feature in Blue Jeans. If you'd like to make public comment or offer comments through that method rather than making verbal comments, you're more than welcome to do that, and we can address those questions or comments as we go throughout the agenda. But is there anybody else who'd like to make some public comment at this time?
This is Michelle Hamilton. Can you hear me?
We can. Good morning, Michelle. The floor is yours.
Hi. Okay. I'm from State College Borough. I actually just want to co-sign everything the last two people said. They said pretty much the same things I was going to say, but maybe even better. I do have a question about personal protective gear and just like how that's going for inmates and staff. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be addressed. So I just wanted to also bring that up. And communication maybe with family members of people who are in there and stuff, if they know any of the things that you all are doing, because it must be very stressful for them as well. So I'll just leave it at that so we can move along.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And the warden absolutely can, and his folks will address that as we get into that agenda item. Absolutely, thank you. We have in the chat, we have somebody named Andrew. Andrew, the floor is yours at this time.
Hi, thank you. I'm Andrew. I'm a resident of the State College Borough, and I'd also like to call on the DA Cantorna and the prison board to immediately release all folks within the correctional facility. We are in the middle of a pandemic that is unheard of in modern times, that has been bolstered by false claims from our government and by our conspiracy theories spread through folks in the community. As we can see, it's growing out of hand, getting worse as we speak, and any sort of group living situation like this is a mess in terms of folks being infected. We do not want anyone to die of COVID-19. And I call on you all to immediately release all incarcerated persons in the CCFF, or CCCFF, something like that.
Andrew, thank you for your comments today. We appreciate that. Okay, we have again in the chat we have somebody named Joe. Joe, the floor would be yours.
Hi, thanks for your time. I like to echo what Andrew just said. I think it's important to realize that for a lot of the inmates and the correctional facility, you know, this could be a death sentence for them, and it could be, they could be in there for something as simple as a misdemeanor. I'd also like to know what the district attorney plans to do moving forward concerning arrests and holding people there, particularly pre-trial. It seems to me that what should be done is, arrests should be suspended until this crisis is under control. It seems pretty ridiculous to be, arresting people and potentially sending them to their death sentence. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And to District Attorney Cantorna, happily we can provide you the opportunity if you wanted to speak to that. If you'd prefer to wait until later on in the agenda, as we're talking more broadly about the COVID-19 policies in the facility, I didn't want to pass that without giving you the opportunity if you wanted to comment at this point.
I think I can comment on that fairly easily.
Okay.
There's been a directive to the police and the district justices who set bail that no one is to be incarcerated unless it's a serious offense that affects public safety. So that safety step has already been put in place, and that was put in place within days of notification of the outbreak. I personally contacted probation and parole, who operates under the supervision of the president judge, and I've spoken to the president judge and directed that they not execute any probation or parole holds and bring new individuals into the jail. And I believe that the head of probation and parole, I shouldn't say I believe, he's indicated that, in fact, that was what they were doing. And I've notified the public defender of our position that if there's someone who does not pose a threat to public safety, that we wouldn't object to them being either furloughed or having their hold lifted and put back on supervision. So we've taken those steps, and myself and the chief public defender have worked through this before in March, and we'll do it again. So I just want to, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scene the public isn't aware of. That would include many of the steps that the warden has taken, and I echo Janet's sentiments that the warden has acted really in a very professional and humane way in the best interest of staff and prisoners, and we'll all continue to do that. I don't like to go out and I don't make many public statements for a reason, and this is a perfect forum for them to be made. So I echo the sentiments. I feel them, and we'll balance public safety with individual safety and go forward. So those steps have already been undertaken. I hope that answers some questions that might come up. So thank you, Mr. Pike.
Okay, thank you, District Attorney Cantorna. We do have Mark Fraley, who was wanting to make comment next.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to echo what Janet said, but also just compliment the staff on the way they're handling the crisis. I know everything's stressful, and as a community, we need to recognize that and acknowledge that. And so as one of the co-conveners of the Prison Society, the group that usually is coming after the jail with complaints and questions, that's really not the case today. We have some concerns, but we're here to support the staff and the warden. But I do have I'm confident you're going to do the right thing and people are going to be released. From a re-entry point of view, strictly a re-entry point of view, when we did this last time, a young lady was released and she was doing really well. And then when things were over, she was making such good progress. And then like the rug was ripped out from underneath her and she had to go back and serve 3-4 months. I don't know if this is possible because I know judges give sentences that require time. I get that. But I would hope somebody could consider, if someone's released early because of COVID and they're out and their sentence is 6 months or left, like they only have 6 months to serve. I would hope we could somehow figure out a way to not make them return if they're making good progress. I mean, if that's what I'm all concerned about, is the reentry part of it. If they're making good progress, it's a shame to yank them out of the state that they've worked themselves to go back in and then have to come out and start all over again. So I don't know if what I'm asking is clear, but I just think it would be something to consider for those that have less time to serve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, we did have a question just from Joe, who was asking if he could respond. And the challenge with the back and forth is it can continue the comments, but you can use the chat, Joe, if you wanted to make some comments in there, and we can make sure that if the district attorney could see those, and he could potentially respond back to you. If you wanted to provide your email to the district attorney directly, that might be the best way to continue that conversation for that. I hope you appreciate that. Okay, we have somebody else who'd like to make comment, and Nick Presley. So Nick, the floor would be yours.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can you hear me? Awesome. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to echo some of the comments we're hearing. Fully understand how difficult this situation is, and appreciate the steps that the jail has taken, Warden Shell, and you and your staff, and Deputy Irwin, to keep the residents safe. I want to note that we're hearing things obviously from inside the jail that are concerning. But my question is mostly concerned about, I think we had a conversation a few weeks ago, Commissioner Pipe, you noted that 40% of the jail residents from Centre County were in there on probation or parole violations. I know we're seeing some of that number come down, but I do know that there are still other folks in there. This is not something that the warden has anything to do with. This is more directed at DA Cantorna. I note that you said you communicated with the probation and parole department about incarcerating folks on probation and parole violations, new folks during this time period. Has there been any conversation with probation and parole and with the president judge, DA, about the folks who are currently incarcerated on probation and parole violations? I know that some of those folks have been released, but I also know there are other folks in there on drug charges who are in there on probation or parole violations, and may there be other remedies for that, at least in a short-term period during the outbreak in the jail. Thank you.
Sure, and thank you, Nick. And just to note again, we try to reserve public comment more for comments, not necessarily a back and forth, because of it's okay. No, it's okay. I want to give the opportunity to the district attorney, if he'd like to, again, we could wait throughout the agenda to maybe discuss that when we get to other matters, but again, the back and forth just elongates the public comment, and we have other business we have to do. But I appreciate the question. I don't want to take away from that, but just again to reiterate, really it's more of just a megaphone, so to speak, and not necessarily a back and forth. But again, these are important things, important topics. And if the district attorney would like to comment now or offline, we're happy either ways. But we'll give him the opportunity if he'd like to make comment this time.
Yeah, briefly. We have released a few with basically stipulation for those who want to understand the process, so that individuals can be identified. The judge has to issue the order. Probation and parole works under the supervision of the judge. We have a role in the hearing as to whether we object or not. We'll work with the public defender's office and defense counsel and agree to those petitions for early parole is one option. And then on the revocation holds, again, that lies with probation and parole and the president judge. I've had positive discussions with them, and if individual cases I should be made aware of, please make us aware of them. That's the process to answer that question. And those conversations has occurred, and it's my job to make sure that they get followed through on. So I'll leave it at that, just for informational purposes.
Okay, thank you, District Attorney Cantorna. Appreciate that very much. We do have other opportunity for public comment. We've been monitoring the chat. for anybody who'd like to make comment. Is there anybody else who'd like to make comment at this time? Okay, last call. We'll give that opportunity here. Okay. We got a message here. Okay, more. Okay, Nico, we can certainly enter this into the record if you'd like us to, but looks like you're just making note that looks like you're making a point about the percentage of people who have tested positive versus the basically the ratio of people who are incarcerated versus those who have been tested, or I should say incarcerated and tested, and just noting a particular concern that some portions of incarcerated individuals represent a profit center for the prison itself, retaining any such person in detention, particularly as they are likely to be parole, probation violations in other counties. Thank you for the comment. We appreciate that, and make sure that's entered into our minutes for the meeting. Okay, so we will move forward with our meeting agenda. We appreciate everybody's public comment today. And again, if there are other questions that you would have, you can put them into the chat. We can make sure that the appropriate prison board member, or again, the warden and his team, respond back to that. So again, thank you. We are going to move forward with the agenda, and we would look for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was held in December. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes. Controller Moser.
Would there be a second? I'd be happy to second the minutes. I can do that. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any further discussion needed on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay. We will go into our monthly reports, and we will turn it over to Warden Chris Schell and his team to run through the monthly reports for today. Good morning, Warden. And if any of you are joining us on the phone, the warden has a nice PowerPoint he does every meeting that really shows a lot of good information. So just to make you aware of that, that's what he's referencing. If you're on the phone, you would not be able to see it, but just to mention that before you get started. But yeah, again, Warden Schell, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner Pipe. I'm just a little difficulties here. Why it's not.
Not a worry. Not a worry.
Good morning, everybody. Starting off with our returning citizen services report, our Center County Mental Health with Amy Miller. It's call-ins right now. A year ago, she's seen 54. This past December, she called in and talked with 17 individuals. She referred 4 to PS Psych, and she referred 9 to Crossroads Mental Health. Dr. Wolf's still conducting virtual meetings on Wednesdays. He sees 3 individuals 4 times this past month. Crossroads is still virtual. Drug and alcohol has 2 male individuals. They see 4 times per the last month. Mental health group, we're seeing 6 males 4 times per month, 3 females 4 times per month. Our Center County Compass program, we have 2 male groups. There are 10 returning citizens in there, and they have 6 peer supports. They meet 3 times per week for the last 4 weeks. They have 1 female group of 11 with 1 peer support. They meet 3 times per week with 4 weeks. Our Compass graduation for December was 7 males. Our work release community reentry workers, Centerpiece is 5, maintenance is 0, grounds is 2, and currently right now we have nobody eligible. Our work release is suspended as of right now. 2019, there was 5 on work release. Our work release non-eligible snapshot on January 7th of 2021, 2 refuse, 2 have DC or historical issues within the correctional facility, 2 are medical, or medical has not cleared them. We have 5 due to the nature of the charges, and we have 5 that have pending new charges or they have a detainer from another county. 1 is pending home plan. We have 10 that's on quarantine. We have 3 pending outside clearance, and we have 6 outside clearance. A snapshot from Friday, December 31st, 2020, we had a total count that day of 183. Center County population was 129, 21 females, 108 males. County sentence was 36, 5 females, 31 males. Unsentenced were 87, 16 females, 71 males. State sentence were 6, and they are all males. Our tentative county population was 54, 16 females, 38 males. County sentence out of that group is 16, 2 females, 14 males. Unsentenced is 36, 14 females, and 22 males. State sentence were 2, and they were males. Our December 2020 daily population graph that shows where we were December 1st. Our Center County count was 133. By end of the month, we were at 129. Our tentative county, we started off at 185, and we ended up with 54. Continue on with our returning citizen services report. Our behavior modification status, we have Tier 0, we have 3. Tier 1, we have 1 individual. Tier 2, we have 1, and we have 15 out in general population. Co-occurring disorder, it's a mental illness and drug addiction. A year ago, 2019, we had 25 that came in out of the 123 intakes that were co-occurring disorder. This past December, we had 8 out of 41 intakes, which is 5.12%. Only 3 were on medications upon intake. Out of the 8, there were 6 from Center County, 2 females, 4 males. 2 from out of county, that was 2 females. Suicide watch a year ago was 12. This past December, we had 12. 9 out of that 12, 9 was from center, 2 females, 7 males. 3 from out of county, 1 female, 2 males. Out of the 12 that was detoxing when they came in were 3. 2 of those were from center, 2 females. 1 from out of county, and was 1 female. The detox total a year ago was 26. 23 center, 3 from out of county. This past December was 14, 7 females, 7 males, 5 from center, 3 females, 2 males, 9 from out of county, 4 females, and 5 males. Our chart here shows what they came in on when they're detoxing. 6 of them was heroin, 5 from center, 1 from out of county. Benzo was 3, 2 from center, 1 from out of county. 0 on meth. 3 on alcohol, which was 2 from center should have been, and 1 from out of county. We have 2 for multiple, where they come in with a heroin, benzo, both detox, and that was 2 from out of county. Right now, we're not Vivitrol shots. The FIMAT numbers were still suspended due to COVID-19. Our prime care report. Inpatient hospital was 0 and 0 days. Our COVID-19 testing results, returning citizens, we have 34 current positives. We have 30 that recovered. We have 264 negative, and we have 142 pending. Total returning citizens seen by a physician or the PA was a year ago was 97. This past year was 73. Total medical transports to outside physicians or clinics a year ago was 26. This past year was 22. I received an email. The individuals or community were looking at the website with our PowerPoints on there for the prison board. And they requested about, can we identify what the mental health stability rating scale is? Now, this is Prime Care Medical. That's our contracted medical company that provides our returning citizens with medical health, any type of mental health needs that the patient needs. So here is the stability ratings per their policy, and I'll go through it here. The mental health needs of the patients will be rated completion of a mental health assessment. We have a mental health clinician here from Prime Care that's here roughly 30 hours plus a week, and she goes around and sees everybody, or she interviews everybody. The 4-point scales designated as A, B, C, and D are as follows. The stability rating A is a patient has no identification of mental health or ID, intellectual disability needs, or history of psychiatric treatment for the past 5 years. B is patients has a history of treatment in the community and or in the facility, but no longer requires mental health services. Patients, category C, patients is currently active in treatment with the mental health department. This includes patients undergoing counseling who are utilizing medication management services or have a history of suicide attempts or hospitalization in the past 2 years. Category D, patients has been diagnosed with a serious mental illness or exhibit significant adjustment behavior concerning serious mental ill diagnostics, including but not limited to schizophrenia. The list is there, as you can read, just depression, bipolar, and goes on through. Additionally, parents who are non-compliant with psychotropic medication for a period of 7 consecutive days who have a history of institutional misconduct will be placed on this scale. This rating will be entered into their core. Their core EM is their medical data collection as an active alert. Continuing on with the Prime Care report with our mental health clinician, seeing individuals. A year ago, December of 19, she's seen 227. This past December, she's seen 138. Psychiatrist, December of 19 was 109. This past December was 81. Mental health patients on psychotropic medication. These are returning citizens that were on a psychotropic medication for the entire month of October. So a year ago, it was 140. Our ADP, or average daily population, that's what the ADP means, was 246 a year ago. That was 56.9% of population. December of 20, our average daily population ADP was 195. Out of 195, we have 122 on psychotropic medication. That comes out to 62.5%. Daily average patient diagnosed with mental health, we have a total of 122 out of 195 ADP. Excuse me. Category C, a year ago we had 128. That was 52% of our population. And this year we have 112, 57.4% of our population. Category D a year ago was 34 with 13.8%. This past December was 20 with 10.3%. We're going to go into our mental health stability rating entire population. This is counting out of county as well as center county population. Stability code A is 18, which is 9% of our population. Stability code B is 29, which is 15% of our, I don't know why that's 15, but 15% of our populations. Category C is 98, which is 52% of our population. Stability code D is 18 with 10%. And we have awaiting placement was 26. The individuals that were awaiting placement, it's not that they have not been seen by mental health. They have been seen by mental health, but they have not completed their mental health assessment protocol at that point. So our total population this day that we took the snapshot on January 11, 2021 was 187. Mental health stability rating by county. Stability code A. The blue will be Center County. The green will be Tennant County. Starting on the left there, stability code A is a total of 13. It's 13 males. Out of county was 4 males. Stability code B Center County was 22. We have, it's actually 1 female and 21 males. I'll have to fix that then. We have 7 out of county, which is 5 males and 2 females. Stability code C is a total of 169 for Center County, 51 males, 18 females. Out of county is a total of 29, 18 males, 11 females. Stability code D is 9 Center County, 8 males, 1 female. Out of county is 8, 5 males, 3 females. Center County average length of stay per stability code. Stability code A is 213 days. Stability code B is 168.6 days. Stability code C is 159.4 days. Stability code D is 159.5 days. Going into our inmate grievance reports, this past December we had 12. A year ago we had 22. All 12 were grievable. 1 was founded. A returning citizen with COVID was refused law library. That was immediately corrected. Central booking, since our director is out right now, we do not have a central booking report at this time. That's all I have on the reports there, Commissioner Pike.
Okay, thank you, Warden Shell. For the prison board members, do we have any questions, comments, feedback on any of the reports the warden provided? The one thing, and I think we're going to tackle it as we get into the COVID-19 portion, Warden, would be we have 142 pending, which would indicate the asymptomatic testing we're going to be doing in the facility. And you'll be talking about that as we go a little bit on in the agenda, correct?
Correct. We actually we were able to get the test sooner than I thought. So we actually already conducted the testing yesterday.
Okay, fantastic. And we can discuss that again under our old business, which we'll be heading into soon. So, but we did want to note that was the reason. If people were wondering why that was, over 100, it's because we've done some asymptomatic testing. Again, we can get to that in a bit. But hearing no other questions or feedback or comments from the prison board, we would accept any questions or feedback from members of the public on any of these monthly reports. We may have a chat here, a question. Yep. Okay. So, yep, we will cover that, Joe, as we get into the COVID-19 portion of the agenda. But anything? Yeah, please, Janet. Yes.
And I'm not sure if it's possible to make this part of the regular monthly reports, and I'm not sure if it's the warden's job to do it. But we're very interested in sort of monitoring how the program with the district attorney is going for identifying and possibly diverting mental health cases into appropriate services. And actually noticed that the number of people is down. And well, anyway, I just wondered if there is a report on that, if this is the appropriate place to give it.
I don't know if Bernie wants to talk about the mental health, the version that he has, the advisory board that we meet on Thursdays with on, if he wants to speak about that, that's how we kind of communicate our cases with the DA's office.
Sure, I can just give a quick update. We do meet monthly, mental health, prison, mental health providers, probation and parole. It hasn't been up and running for very long, Janet, so we can't take any credit for reducing the numbers. It's on the front end. We've got 3 in, 2 that'll get approved, and a number of individuals being considered. And part of the program is the individuals are actually seeking treatment on the front end. So it doesn't happen immediately, and we hope to continue to expand it. That's just the status. So it's really it's very early in the program, but on the other hand, everybody in the program is consistently seeking treatment and doing well. So that's the update on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was exactly the question I had.
Any other questions or feedback on this portion of the agenda before we go forward? Yes, and we are going to be discussing, to Nico's question, as we get into the COVID-19 protocols and response, we would be addressing that point. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Hearing no other comment as for this for the monthly reports, we are going to go into our old business for today, and we are going to start with the a data collection conversation. And just for some of the new members or some of the from members of the public who were not with us in December, we had some public comment and a brief presentation from some members of the community who are with us today who have not made public. Some of them haven't made public comment today at our meeting, but they essentially outlined some feedback and questions regarding certain data that could be published or certain information that could be published on our correctional facilities website, and there was a request to make some more data and more information available regarding incarcerated individuals. And so what we did as a board of inspectors was we received the comment, we let them know that we would be looking at this and taking it into consideration. We held some informational meetings as a prison board. We also held some executive sessions to talk specifically about the legal aspects of this in terms of what we can and can't post out there regarding the law, some previous cases that occurred specifically at the correctional facility in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and some of the lawsuits that emanated from that and were resolved. So this is really to come back around to talk a little bit about where we're at with that. And we have been focusing on and Ward and his team have been doing many things. So we give them a lot of credit for being able to focus on this, get us some information together with this, while also dealing with everything else they've been working on. I will say that it's not necessarily where we need to today get to a resolution on how we're going to handle this, but depending on the conversation where it goes, we could always get to resolution, or we could consider this at a future meeting how we're going to handle this, given the amount of emphasis and energy we need to have the warden and his team focusing on the COVID-19 issues at the facility. So having said that, we do want to receive some feedback and discussion about where we're at and what the warden and again our solicitor Betsy Dupuy, who is with us, on what she has found and her perspective on this is as well. So we'll start there. And I don't know if Warden you'd like to present. We do want to hear from Betsy. I don't know if you worked out an arrangement on who was going to go first, but we'll leave that up to both of you.
I was going to let Betsy take the front on this, if that's okay with Betsy.
Yeah, I'm fine starting this, and obviously, Warden, you can chime in here. I think in discussing this with the board, and certainly any of the prison board members can comment as well from their experiences. There are two issues that have been presented to us. One is that and I'm going to use the acronym, Chris, and I'm going to ask you to say the title, but it's CHICORA. It's the Criminal Justice Information Act, Criminal Records Information Act. All right?
Criminal History Information Act. Yes.
Yeah. So that sets certain standards for really anybody involved in this process, whether you be the courts, probation, district attorney, or prisons. And I'll say, unfortunately, because with respect to this particular request, prisons are held to a different standard and do not have the luxury of producing certain information. And as a result, they're very limited. Sorry, Mike, that may be me. Are we better now?
We should be, yes, we should be. We had some people mute themselves, so we should be good.
Okay. So that sets out the first set of parameters which guides what the prison can and cannot release relative to their inmates And it certainly protects, it's designed to protect the persons who are incarcerated. I know there's folks on the call who may think that's not a protection, but it's the law is based upon protection from the public of private information. I mean, that's the necessity of the law. What has since happened is that one prison in, I think Commissioner Pipe referenced Bucks County, they produced a pretty expansive listing. And admittedly, that listing included not only current inmates, but former inmates. They posted it on their website, and they were taken to court. And part of the issue was that, again, and this was federal court, not state court, but federal court interpreting state court law, reading Chikora, again, I hate to use the acronym, but rather than saying the whole thing, the court found that the information exceeded, the information released by the prison exceeded its authority. They made a pretty sizable judgment award, and the county, in that instance, is now paying that sum. We, in addition to reviewing that case and understanding the decisions of the court there, the warden and I've talked to several other solicitors, but I know the warden has spoken to several other wardens across the Commonwealth. We're all in the same bind in the sense that folks want this information out there, but our hands are tied from the way the law is set up. There are other avenues under which this information is available. Certainly anyone who commits a crime in any county, their information, unless purged from the records because they have gone through ARD or some other program, is available in the county courthouse. It is not available on a website necessarily, although folks in Center County can search that very quickly. If they log on and subscribe to Webbia, they have all that information. But in terms of the details about where those individuals, so for example, there's limitations on finding out where individuals are incarcerated, what is going on with their incarceration. Some of that is available, and the district attorney can speak to this on some of the court websites related to criminal history, but none of that is allowed to be produced by the prison. And I see you shaking your head, Chris, but I'm hoping that makes sense to you, that, you know, while other parts of government can produce this information, it is not something that the prison can produce. And I see you shaking your head, so I think I've got that right, Chris.
Yes, correct. That is correct.
And I don't know if the district attorney wants to speak to any of this. I mean, I'm not putting him on the spot because he's certainly already been on the spot this morning, but there are other avenues to gather information, but the prison is not the one that should be producing this information. They are allowed to produce aggregate information, which is a lot of the reports that you see. I am looking at the comments somebody's pointing out is because someone was no longer incarcerated. I can appreciate that that is true. There is no question that the Bucks County case involved people who were currently housed in the prison and people who had been. But that doesn't change the court's interpretation of Chikora. I'm probably not pronouncing that, but the Criminal History Record Information Act, it doesn't change the court's interpretation of that severely restricts the ability of prisons to produce information, specific information about inmates being housed. Again, general information, aggregate information without names and so forth is fine, but that's the gist of that.
One comment on that is anything that identifies the individual, as name, date of birth, charges, and so forth, that can identify the individual, and that's what happened. And with Bucks County, what happened is a third party took a photo snap of their website, and that's how they did it. And it was on a third party website when the individual had his case expunged that found his name on there and his photo on there, and that's when he proceeded with the lawsuit. And that's why a lot of the jails in Pennsylvania took a lot of their stuff down, or they used PA7. Washington County, I've been in communication with that warden, and they actually took everything down on their website and just posted the PA7, what we have up, that you can look up people in that manner.
Yeah, and I can't speak directly to the intent of the legislature when this law was set up, but my guess is that the reason they limited it to certain places like courts and others is for the very reason you identified, Chris. If you put this information out publicly, once it is out there, you have no way to control the data. And if someone currently in our facility is subsequently receives an ARD, but somebody corners this data and puts it out there, now the state has not complied with the provisions of the ARD program, which essentially says that what you did is erased from all public record. As we all know, once information gets out on the web, it's out there. It's not, and part of the issue I think in that case was that information was getting reproduced on the web, and that's really the concern. I can't say the legislature was aware of that when they put the law in place, but my guess is that the reason they, if I can use this word, they've hamstrung the prisons is because they feel that other avenues for release of this information are more able, I don't want to use capable, but able to manage the control and dissemination of that information. That's all I can offer. I did not look into the legislative history, but the act has been around for a long time, so the limitations are not new.
And to go to that point, Betsy, I know you were saying the legislature, which we often talk about, but this would actually be the Congress, correct? Was this a federal law?
Oh, it's a Pennsylvania. That's a Pennsylvania statute.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but in the case of the interpretation was by a federal judge, but they were interpreting, what they basically read the letter of the law and said to Bucks County, you violated it, and here's why, and this is how we interpret the law.
Okay, so essentially, what we're hearing is the aggregation of information and data that would be helpful to give more facets and understanding of who is incarcerated, and providing that data out to the community is something that is absolutely allowable and a direction we could head in. And there is a great hesitancy with us, again, from our solicitor about going into the direction of putting individual information out there. And again, this really was, something that as we looked at taking certain information we had off of our website and going to the PA-7 link that we have on there currently really informed a lot of that. So we are revisiting it today. We are putting it out there. Again, we do have some information from Chris, from our warden, that talks about the GTL contract we have that does do some data collection for us that he can go into. But in terms of any questions or comments from members of the prison board, are there any at this point before we head into some of the data aggregation that we could potentially look at doing from GTL? Okay. Hearing none, we will then go. We'll turn it back to the warden. Thank you, Betsy, for that very much, for that overview on this. We do want to give the warden the floor in terms of talking about what kind of access to data do we have, what kind of compilations do we have, and maybe potentially looking at some other new data that we could be putting out there. So we'll turn it to you, warden.
Thank you, Commissioner Pipe, and also thank you, Betsy, for clarifying legally what we can and can't do. I reached out to GTL for a Center County only report, and in this report what we're requesting is put our jail capacity, which our jail capacity is 397, and also add into this report the daily and yearly population of females and males, the age profile, the daily and year sentenced individuals, daily yearly unsentenced individuals, and daily yearly state sentence, as well as daily, yearly intake admissions on probation, parole, bench warrants. The last one of the day there for the intake and admissions is kind of going to be difficult. We may have to change how we process somebody in and how we put the information in to be able to get a better report on that. So that's something they're working on right now. I'm not sure when it's going to be completed. I'm hoping sooner than later. So what they do is they send me the report, we look at it, and we make adjustments at that point. Right now, that's what we're looking at, the bases, and we'll go from there. There may be some other things we may place on there, but right now, this is what we're going to start off with. And like I said, we can always move forward on other entities within that report.
Thank you, warden. And in addition, GTL, as we all know, works with many different counties, correctional facilities, probably across the country. And if they have any facilities that are really doing, if GTL has capabilities in other facilities that are looking at greater data collection or data reporting, I think it'd be helpful for us to maybe see some examples of that and see what that looks like. But this would be a good foundation for, where we can go from here. Thank you for putting this together for this. But again, data aggregation, I think, is the future consideration that we would look at. And again, giving another facet of who we have incarcerated within our facility. Any specific feedback from prison board members regarding, the GTL conversation here?
Mike, this is Jason. I think the only thing, and this isn't really something I think the warden and his team has control over, but perhaps making this information maybe a little easier to find on the county's website. It's maybe a link that's a little more visible or something to this information might be a little more helpful to the public.
Yeah, our website has grown in the last several years in terms of the information we have up there, but our correctional facility page does have some good information, and certainly can look at a link that is specifically on CCDF data. That could be readily available. Absolutely. One of our top links or top reasons why people come to our website still is to use the lookup tool that can help them find if individuals are incarcerated. So we do know it's a point of interest for people to want to find that kind of information. So I think that's something that's easily done. Controller Moser, absolutely. Any other feedback or questions regarding the GTL conversation? Okay. We do have, it looks like, some questions regarding this from the chat, and we do want to give the opportunity for public feedback on this. And it looks like, so we had a comment from Joe that was talking about data being publicly available. Again, public-facing website. I think that's what we're looking into and considering would be on the correctional facilities webpage, just having another stub page that's specifically related to data, and even putting out the PowerPoints that the warden does could potentially be helpful in the future. So yes, something absolutely we would be considering and looking at. But then it looks like Maddie, you had a question for our solicitor, so we would turn the floor over to you.
Certainly, I appreciate that, and I want to thank all contributing members for their consideration of this proposal. It's been very, very valuable to me to see our public officials take interest in community proposals. That's something that I'm very glad about. So my question is specifically, as one of the key compilers of this proposal, I'm interested to hear how the solicitor's comments reconcile with the 6 county models that I presented in the proposal, because I definitely, everything that I was very comprehensive in the way that I presented this. Everything that I asked for is at least is able to be found in some sort of other public database. I never asked for anything that is not sourced from either court docket sheets, from other commitment rosters across the state. I am interested to hear specifically. I know that the Bucks County thing was the case was cited by the solicitor. I want to note that in the proposal it is very much emphasized that this is an active roster. This is never going to have anything that is after an individual is released or their record is expunged. They will not be able to be viewed on this, or any of their information will be on this roster in any way. I'm curious to hear how so definitely interested in that fact that this is the proposal for an active roster, how that plays into the decision by the county. I'm also interested to hear because this proposal is asking for a repository that is published by the county and not by the jail, because the jail itself does not have its own website. This is the other models across the state are published by the county, or either have a separate you have to go through a signatory to go to another data repository and view this information. So it is in that way, not just on the county website. It is through another portal. And I'm also curious to hear the solicitor expand on the fact that this data is published in these public dockets, but how that is also lending itself to perhaps more security on the part of individuals, even though it is viewed in a public setting. Thank you.
So I can jump in here real quick, and then I want to have the warden jump in, because I know that when we talked about this after the last meeting, public meeting, the warden went out and spoke to several of those counties, and I think he's at least addressed one of them, but I'll let him address that. But the critical issue is that I'm not going to argue that there aren't other ways that this information is available, certainly through the courts. The issue is that the law limits who is able to produce that information to the public. And so even the county, as standing on its own, is not able to produce this information under that guise. That is, the courts have certain parameters and can produce information. And so our reading of that is specifically limiting to what the prison can do, whether or not it or the county maintains the website. Secondarily, and I can only opine to this because the courts, because I've not looked at the legislative history, but simply placing this information on a website, first of all, requires that it be maintained, and that is handled on the court side very adequately by their staff. But secondly, once it goes out in the World Wide Web, depending on how your website is structured, and again, I'm not a web person, but I know the commissioner is, the ability to protect that information from not being pulled up at a later date is the problem, right? So once I publish something on my website in the web, if I don't otherwise adjust that search browser or somehow have a mechanism that clears it regularly, that information is still available even after those individuals would leave I realize it's not on the visible website that's today, but we can all pull up websites from 2012 that show us exactly what was going on somewhere at some time. So there's a couple different avenues, but the most critical avenue is that law restricts what we can do. And I'll just say secondarily, because the board is here and can comment, one of the other questions I asked the board was, if you want to exceed what's out there and take the risk, which obviously the county can choose to do, that somebody comes back and files a similar case or charges you in some way as what happened in Bucks County. And I recognize the distinction about the Bucks County case, but everyone needs to understand that the people who are being paid out of that class action are not just people whose information shouldn't have been out there. It's everybody that's ever been incarcerated there. It's a broad group. It's a broad decision. So it's very important to know that. But I said to the board, one of the critical considerations has to be the reasoning behind releasing this information and the benefit that it affords to the persons being held. And if you're telling me that there are other avenues to gather this information, my guess is that it doesn't need to be printed on the county's website who is actually in the prison and what they're in prison for.
And just to add to Maddie, where you said Washington County actually took theirs down. I talked to the warden. They actually added the PA7. Clinton, Westmoreland, Crawford, and Cumberland and Erie County, that's totally up to their prison board to make that decision and put their county at liability on that sense. But I'm going to tag in my deputy, Gordon here. She is really in depth with this whole process. So I'm going to actually mute myself and let Melanie.
Okay. So since Bucks County and the Taha case came out, this has been a concern for all county prisons across the state. So we actually have wardens associations where we get together and discuss these various things and have experts in. The County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, that I know our prison board members are all familiar with, did an extensive study on this with their in-house counsel. And so some of what I'm saying comes from their recommendations and my own viewing of it. But they made recommendations that mirror exactly what Betsy's saying. And a couple counties like Crawford, when we spoke to them after you raised these concerns, Crawford said, we literally didn't know about that case. We didn't come to the conferences. we didn't know that case existed. We're going back to our solicitors, and I don't know if Crawford still exists because their last intention was to take it down. That was a similar thing with the warden at Washington County, who's new, and said, look, we didn't know this law exists. We need to review it with our solicitor. Erie County absolutely does not have a lookup. I went through all 62 counties to see who's doing what. Erie County pushes you over to Savin the way that we do, because I was at the same training with their deputy warden. Basically, the law for CREA was interpreted to say that with law enforcement, there's this bubble that we're a part of, and the only one who can go outside that bubble are police agencies. And the Attorney General's office that interprets that law said state and local police agencies, which we don't qualify. The courts are separate from that. The courts have their own things. So we're not denying that the courts could absolutely publish that. But it's not fair to say that the county can publish it, because the county is made up of all the different agencies. We would have to give that to the county. Otherwise, it's already coming from the courts, and then we're back to the courts are able to publish it, and we kind of think that. So I tried to speak to all of your different points. I'm not sure if we missed any there, in terms of why the jail is hampered in a way that a police agency would not be, or the courts are not be. We are just specified differently. And some counties have decided that name only is okay, but that's their decision. We don't control their solicitor, their prison board.
So thank you to Deputy Warden Gordon, and also to Betsy. And we may have, so in terms of the, we do want to be mindful of our time today, and proceeding with the agenda. We want to make sure we have enough time for us to discuss the COVID-19, the future of that, what's going on in terms of our testing within the facility, and the protocols that we're putting in place. I want to say that we're going to keep on the agenda the conversation about data collection, so we can continue to look at aggregate information that we can put out there regarding some of the things that you, Maddie, and others on the call had brought up as a potential opportunity for us to give to the public another facet and a better, more understanding about who's incarcerated, and the challenges that they have in terms of certain, again, we're putting a lot of things out when it comes to mental health, but we also want to be mindful of some of the programs that we're putting out there. And, we can do data aggregation in terms of how many individuals in the facility are participating in certain things. And we do that, and we have data for that. But again, I think, and there was a comment in the chat about putting it out as a PDF or a readable format. So we certainly appreciate that. So we're going to keep discussing it as we go forward, and appreciate all the feedback we've received on this. And again, as we go forward, feel free to keep us, send us information or further feedback and comments when it comes to other ways that we can be doing data collection and reporting. So if there's information you're interested in seeing, please let us know. But again, I think it's to move towards the aggregate would probably be the best way to do it. And again, offering the opportunity before we close out this topic for any other prison board members who'd like to make any of their comments made at this point.
Commissioner Pike, this is Connie Martin. I have one question before we move on.
And if we could, Connie, I just wanted to give the opportunity for any prison board members, but absolutely we can take your comment. Were there any other prison board members that wanted to make a comment on the data collection portion before we go on? Okay, hearing none. Yeah, Connie, please, we'll turn it over to you.
I just wanted to ask, you made a comment about executive sessions. Were those involving the prison board of inspectors, or was that commission meetings, and were they announced?
No, they will be announced as we conclude the meeting. But it was a prison board of inspectors executive session. Yep.
Thanks.
Sure, you're welcome. Okay, so again, thank you to our solicitor Betsy Dupuy, to the warden, to Deputy Warden Gordon as well in this. We're very helpful for us to understand where we're at when it comes to data collection and potential options of how we some other things we can do moving forward. So in terms of our agenda, we have our COVID-19 correctional facility operations discussion, and we are going to be looking at, again, programming, future considerations, and then visitation in addition to our partnership with Centerpiece. So we'll turn it over to the warden and his team again for this, and we'll go from there.
All right, Lisa, the next. Okay. Technology is not my friend today for some reason. Okay. All right, starting off with our COVID-19 correctional facility operations, our programming, virtual meetings. Not much really changed. Right now we're on hold on everything with our Crossroads mental health and drug and alcohol counseling, in which actually the counselors are off on vacation from Crossroads this week. So they're not performing anything this week with our returning citizens. Penn State mental health services continue, incarcerated youth school program, IYP, CIU 10, creative writing, yoga, men's meditation, legal literacy, parenting inside out. It'll be starting up, I think, in the spring, if I'm correct, Connie. And then, of course, entrepreneurship classes. We're going to schedule that once we get over this little hump. DUI Core, AA for females and males, Bible studies, Christmas caroling. Thanks to Mark Fraley for organizing that with his church. We did Christmas card making, programming by phones, GED programs, Central Court, probation assessment, home plans, paperwork, DRS office hours, TASC assessments, Compass in-person, Compass for men and women. The admin staff went back with the Christmas cooking, decorating, then the Christmas gifts for incarcerated parents' children's. My Brenda and myself went back and conducted that. Programming through visiting through the non-contact room meetings. Right now it's public defenders, private attorneys, chaplain services, men's and women. Video access church services continues to drop off the church services. And then the registration and ballotee, we've done that. We can take that off for the next meeting. If you look to the left there, the Christmas gifts for incarcerated parents. For the children, what we did, we had a sign up for anybody incarcerated inside of our facility that has children. We're able to come by and pick a gift out, wrap it, and if they were unable to pick it up here at the correctional facility, we send it out to that child's residence. I don't know, I think we had almost 20 participants with this, and we sent out majority of those, just making it easier for families that they didn't have to drive into here, so we just sent it out to their residents at that time. The Christmas gifts for returning citizens, we handed these out. I came in on Christmas morning, handed out to each individual. What they got was 3 stamped envelopes, a notebook, pencil, toothpaste, sticky bun, Snickers, candy cane, soap, and Martin's chips. So we gave that to every returning citizen as a gift. Continuing on with our operations, our future considerations during the COVID-19, we did a mass testing of all correctional facility returning citizens, as well as officers. I'm sorry, I was just trying to read my notes real quick. So right now we have 142 participants. We had 5 individuals, 5 returning citizens refused. They were going to be asked again today if they would take the COVID-19 PCR swab today. Right now we have 21 on quarantine in general pop. We have 16 that were possible exposed, and we have 5 that's refused that are on quarantine status at this time. So we did, like I mentioned, we test all the staff, and then we tested all the returning citizens. At that point, we ramped up our cleaning. We got some new cleaning material with the spray guns. These are spray guns. It's much easier and a better way to distribute the chemicals to kill the COVID-19 around, so forth. So we don't have much more besides what we've been doing with cleaning. We restricted movement within the correctional facility right now. We are still holding court virtual. We're doing that's taking a little longer because we only bring one out at a time. They do it, then we send them back, and then we sanitize everything, and then we pull the next one up. So the courts are going a little slower than before, but we have to make sure that we take all the precautionaries we can at this point. And that, so we have a plan that we're going to meet today. After the meeting today, my team going to meet moving forward with this mass testing. The results will start coming in sometime over the weekend, we feel, and we will start moving people if we need to. If we start having positives that were asymptomatic within the facility, we have a plan that we'll be moving them into their own units and going from there. Our visitation centerpiece currently right now are on suspension, as well as much of our intakes, unless there's a serious criminal act that was comprehended, and then they had to bring them in. But right now, everything's kind of on a hold right now until we get through this trying time. Yeah, no tenant counties. We actually requested to them to take their individuals back if they're soon to be released now, and go from there. So no tenant county, restriction on anybody for new commitments unless it's a serious criminal offense. No visitations. Centerpiece is on hold right now. That's all I have for that, Commissioner Pike. Is there any other questions I need to talk about? Communication. Yesterday, we went around. Actually, I was down in the B1 housing unit talking with the positives. We were talking yesterday. I was going around to see if they needed anything. They're all in much better spirits than Friday, but I think it's just me being down there talking with them. I think made them, they had a lot of questions. I gave them all the answers, and I think they were pleased with that. Deputy Irwin went around yesterday, explained to everybody what we were doing, talking about returning citizens. When I say everybody, when he walked around with medical staff with the housing units, and he explained to everybody what they were doing and why they were doing it and how we're going to forward with that. So we are communicating with the staff, with the returning citizens, as well as our staff, of course, and so forth.
A question clarifying the 21 in quarantine, meaning they're positive. With 34 positive, did you on that? Is a chat question.
What the 21 is?
21 is exposures. 16 exposures.
16 is exposures. Yeah. So right now we have 34 positive cases. The 25 out of the one housing unit, and then we have a few new commitments, and we have a few females that were positive in a smaller housing unit. So that's where the positives of 34 came up with.
And then in terms of that, we did, as Melanie was saying. So there are, so when we talk about positive cases, those individuals that are positive are isolating. So when you test positive, we not just in the correctional facility, but also in the general community in Center County, across the country even, you'd be isolating when you test positive. Quarantining would be if you came into contact with somebody who tested positive. So in terms of how many folks we have quarantining that may have come in contact with them, or just throughout the facility quarantining, do we have a number on that? I don't know where the 21's coming from. I heard Melanie maybe say 16. We clarify that one as well.
21's on quarantine right now, and that's counting the new commitments as well. Is that how you put that in? I can't see the chat, so if you want to explain.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure we don't echo. We have the 34 in isolation. We have 16 possibly exposed to those 34 that have been separated into a quarantine, and then 5 refused to test yesterday and are quarantined because we can't test them, so they'll be reoffered today. So the 21 is the 16 possible exposures and the 5 refusals to test. And each of those are in separate areas. Positives are separate from possible exposures. which are separate from the ones who refuse to test, who are quarantining in their original area. And then we have another, what's the bottom number, Chris, we had 15 that are on their initial quarantine on top of that. And that's just figured every single person comes in for an initial quarantine. So there's 15 that weren't in that discussion we were just having, and they'll hopefully clear here after their testing in that 2-week period.
You muted. Thank you, Melanie. She keeps the numbers pretty straight with everything. So she slid that over to me, and I was trying to read them, and I apologize on that. I have my own different numbers, and not different, but just what we published this morning on the website of what we have 142 pending, and we have 30 staff that are pending. And not all staff, because their days off, rotating days off, have not been in here yet to be able to get tested. So we have a lot more that needs to be tested currently right now.
Okay. Thank you, Warden, and Melanie as well. Appreciate that very much. And so we want to just loop back to the chat to some earlier questions that were asked. We did get through some of the questions that were asked earlier on. I just want to make sure that we're hitting all of those. We did have a little bit of, so there was a question that somebody named Nico was asking in terms of the ratio between individuals that have tested positive and the population, and looking to see if there was any, in terms of just that, we appreciate that at this point, the ratio is the ratio, and how many people have tested positive, and so at this point, again, as the warden discussed, and Melanie as well, certain protocols that we have in place are to slow the virus within the facility in terms of movement, in terms of individuals coming in and out of the facility who are incarcerated, but also visitation as well. But also, we are doing a asymptomatic testing of essentially everybody within the facility. And so as that will help greatly in knowing if individuals in certain other units have tested positive or not. That will greatly help things. And so in the next few days, we'll hopefully see that, obviously, that ratio come down as we're able to make sure that we're mitigating it and basically just keeping the virus from spreading within the facility. I think the other thing as well that I would just offer up there, if there's any dissension on this, we can certainly not do it, but we do currently have on the correctional facility webpage that data section that has the individuals how many individuals we have incarcerated, in addition to how many people we have that are pending tests, tested negative, and then also tested positive. And it may be good to do some breakout session, or not breakout session, but a breakout section that basically explains that we're doing some asymptomatic testing, and these are the individuals we're testing that are asymptomatic, just because we're going to see a huge jump in terms of the tests, and it may be important to do a section that's just asymptomatic testing. I don't know if anybody would have any concerns about that, but I think that would be helpful from the general public when they see an increase of 142 pending tests. It might be helpful, but happy to have any feedback on that from any of the other prison board members. Okay, well, if hearing no concerns regarding it, that might be good, Warden, if you wanted to maybe put something together like that, or yeah.
So just to clarify that, so we'll take the 142 that we did, it will make another section saying we did a mass testing of 142, and then we'll keep that tally separate from what we currently have as positive cases. Am I correct with that, or am I off key?
No, you've got it exactly right. And just even specifying, during these 3 or 4 dates, this asymptomatic testing occurred, and that was specifically the results of that. And then any of the cases or people who are symptomatic that we're testing as we go forward can be continued to be put in that section that you have currently. Yep. So you got it. You absolutely right. Yep. And then we did have I just want to jump back to the chat here to make sure that we're hitting all of those points. We did talk about the protocols that we've in place, so I hope that if people have any questions on that, we can go from there. Let's see here. we can also offer it up if there's any questions here regarding. Okay, we do. So, Mark, Mr. Fraley, it looks like you had a question there.
Yes, sir. A statement that's very true. Happy staff means happy inmates. Stressed out staff means stressed out inmates. I know for a fact a lot of the staff, the warden, are taking all this very personal, and it's very trying on them. If I were a Prison Board of Inspector member, I would make a motion that we go out of our way to show our appreciation to the administration and staff, whether that's giving them a gift card to Olive Garden or Texas Roadhouse or whatever. It's a silly thing, but I'm telling you, and I want to acknowledge the staff, of course, right? But I'm also being very considerate of the inmates at this point. We have grumpy staff and stressed out staff. That stuff just affects everybody. So that's the statement. And I'm wondering how many staff have tested positive for COVID. And
over the course of the
what are we talking about? Mandatory time? I mean, I'm real interested in to see how stressed the staff are and what the situation is with that. Thank you.
Right now we have, out of the whole course of since we started this back in March 13th or 16th, it's somewhere in March, we had a total of 16. 10 of them were in the previous, 6 of them are active right now. A few were supposed to come back, however, their doctor would not release them, so they are still out of our facility right now. So 16 or 6 is currently positive at this time. So we try to do a special meal every week for them, different days, because people's days all falls differently. So we try to do a special meal for them. I feel the board's been very supportive with us. I thank them for listening to us sometimes, and just maybe sometimes I give them a call and just kind of express my concerns and what we're trying to do and go forward, and we kind of keep trying to go forward, and our greatest concerns are for our returning citizens and our staff. We do worry about them. It is concerning. It's frustrating at times, but we keep moving forward. I got a great team up here. I couldn't ask much more for Mel and Glenn. They do a tremendous job, and I thank the board.
Yeah, we've had a terrific working relationship with the warden and his whole team, and if this is we joked when Warden Shell came into us, we said to him, you have a quarter century of experience, and he sort of was like, oh, I never thought about it that way, and we said, no, you have a tremendous amount of experience here, and we also said to him during the interview process, we don't really want any BS during this interview. You've got to sort of bring your A game here. And he's brought it day in, day out. And again, he's been able to help his team through this difficult time. But I think this is the greatest challenge they've had so far. And once they get through this, I think the recognition will be there really won't be anything else that they can't work together and get through as a team together. And we really do stress that word team as much as possible here. And, this is, we haven't really even talked about it here too much at the Prison Board of Inspectors meeting, but they just successfully negotiated a 4-year contract with our correctional officers, which is a monumental task to do, not during a pandemic, and they were able to do it during a pandemic. And so that helps us to put that behind us as we go forward. And so we're very fortunate to have those correctional officers as well that are doing, again, absolutely difficult work. I will say, just to the prison board or to the members who are prison board members, but also the public as well, is we did grant, due to the extraordinary difficult nature of the job that has been in front of the individuals who work at our correctional facility, a hazard pay. And we did that in 2020 as we ended the year, because we thought it was very, very important to do that. But to go to your point, Mark, that we do want to make sure that they are not just happy, but feel recognized and appreciated because of the tremendous work do, or that they have done, and that we can just recognize and say thank you as much as we can. So absolutely. So we appreciate your comments on that, Mark, and again, we have great confidence that the warden and his team are going to be able to lead that group through this and again get to a better place. But we're not out of it yet. We have to recognize that. So,
Commissioner,
please, yes.
Just one follow-up to an earlier question was about personal protective clothing, and it was an issue that came up during my parenting class discussions. I am hopeful that those people who are assigned to cleaning in the facility are provided more protective equipment than just a mask. And could you tell me what they're using to protect themselves as they clean?
What we're doing is I should have mentioned this, every staff member as well as any returning citizens that's a worker are using N95 masks. So our laundry, our sanitation, our cleaners, hygiene, and our kitchen workers are all wearing N95 masks, returning citizens as well as staff. They have access to gloves. They have access to gowns. All staff, anybody that they need to, they wear the gowns and the masks, the N95 masks, the shields, and gloves. And that's what we go with.
I am just hopeful that they have also the opportunity to change their uniforms as frequently as needed.
Most definitely. We give them new uniforms anytime that they request it, or a lot of times they will, once they're cleaning and they got to get searched, they usually go out to intake, and sometimes they change them over and then they let them use the showers, and then they can go back to their units at that time.
Thank you. That puts my mind to rest a bit.
We did have a question from Janet.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Commissioner Pike. I actually have two questions. Among the people who are stressed out are the family members of the inmates. And we sometimes get, are in communication with them, and it's extremely difficult for them to not know what's going on. And I just wonder if the warden or somebody can speak to, particularly, sometimes I know that there are issues about, well, we can't disclose medical information, but that's been an issue pre-COVID, right, in terms of making sure that the correct forms are filled out so that people who are loved ones really are able to know. Some people only have sniffles, and other people are, seriously ill, and family members are extremely concerned. They don't know what to think. So I'm asking for somebody to address either what's being done now or what might be done to facilitate that communication.
They still have their phone calls, and they still have video visitation in the units. Anything with, if a parent would reach out to me, we would make sure that all the forms are filled out immediately. And then I'd talk to any family member once the forms are filled out through Prime Care to talk about medical. That's a HIPAA law. I cannot change that. I cannot talk about somebody's health if they are not going to release information. So, like I said, any parent that has concerns, they can call me here at the correctional facility. I will return their call. I have no problem talking to anybody. However, when it comes into medical, I would definitely get the phone number and talk with them, and then find out who their child or their loved one is, and I will talk with medical, and then we'll get the forms filled out, and then I'll be able to call them back and talk with them, or I can have the HSA call them back and talk with them if they prefer a medical on our end to talk instead of myself. But I have no problem talking with anybody that would like to talk to me about this situation.
And are the phone calls still free? I've lost track.
Yes, the first phone call is free every week. Every week they get a free phone call.
And thank you so much. And my second question is there, can anyone update us about the possibility of the vaccine coming to the jail?
That is our next.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
There it is. Sorry about that.
No, you read our minds, Janet. Read our minds.
There was another question, so I didn't want to take away from Joe here.
No, that's okay. Not a worry. And we do want to just make sure if we had any other questions regarding specifically non-vaccine questions related to COVID-19, we happily can take other questions at this portion. Again, we addressed a lot of them during public comment. So if there are questions that came up during public comment, we want to answer now. But if there are any that we did not, that we might have missed, please let us know now, and just feel free to unmute yourself or put that into the chat again. Oh, Joe, great. Yes, please.
Hi, yeah. I wanted to ask a few follow-up questions from earlier. One, these might be directed more at the district attorney. But one is, how are serious crimes being defined? What crimes fall under that rubric? There's, even the district attorney's office and police officers have a lot of discretion in terms of, how objective behaviors get classified. And then the other question I had, I believe somebody mentioned this earlier. I apologize, I forget who, but this I think is actually a pretty valuable opportunity to, reassess public safety, and we can achieve our public safety goals while also imprisoning people less and incarcerating people less. I know lots of places have begun exploring, lots of states have begun exploring. New Jersey ended cash bail not too long ago. New York State severely restricted the use of it. So these places aren't, these are our neighbors. So I think this is a valuable opportunity, if we're looking at releasing people early, and we're putting the brakes on arresting people, and we can, we're still achieving our public safety goals. I think this is a really valuable. Is there any work being done by the district attorney and others to look at this and use this as a learning opportunity to be incarcerating people less? Those are my kind of two questions.
Mike, if you want me to take some time, I'll give a brief answer.
Sure, please, yes.
And I'll say there are some obvious categories, and I'll also say it is on a case-by-case basis, because the nature of the charge doesn't necessarily highlight the risk of safety to the public. And ultimately, we don't have, individuals who've been arrested, they have a right to bail. Whether they can make bail, that's another story, but that does go into the pretrial release. Directly answering your question, murder, rape, child sexual assault, some driving under the influence charges. We have some cases where we've had 2 or 3 DUIs or methamphetamines or heroin cases, and the person continues to drive impaired and they get cash bail and they can't get out. We just released an individual who seriously injured another human being, who's on probation, who's on, I take that back, probably parole, and has a pending DUI causing injury. That was a very difficult decision. That person poses a risk to the public safety. You have domestic abuse cases where you have large red flags that the individual may pose a risk to the human being that they allegedly may have abused. And they have a tendency to escalate, and evidence-based research suggests that there are certain factors that make them more dangerous, and time is of essence. So they might be in on cash bail. I can say I'm not aware of those individual cases right now, but that gives you a broad answer to your question, and specifically, some are obvious and easy, and then some require more detail and attention. Hope that at least gives you some idea into how at least I think about it.
Thank you, District Attorney Cantorna. We are going to, Kathy Brown did have a question comment regarding Joe's question, and we'll turn it over to Kathy.
Yeah, I guess just a comment. Community conferencing is coming to Center County, and I so wish it was up and running right now, because it would be a great solution to a lot of the arrests that we don't want to make. It would be a great time to be able to refer to community conferencing. Unfortunately, we won't be up and running until probably late April, But I just wanted to throw that out there, that it would be a great solution in a time like this to be able to refer things to that. And if you're not familiar with community conferencing and what's coming, Joe, I'm happy to send you information. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. And then Christy did have a question, and we can address that. Would you like to ask that, Christy? The question you had in the chat there?
Sure. My question is for those that are coming up on their maximum release date, say within the next 2 weeks, that are currently tested positive and in isolation, how is that going to affect their release date?
I can, anybody that's getting released that's positive, what we would do is make sure there's no movement in the hallways. Anybody going to court, we would bring them up and we would change them out into there, and we would give them a paper that illustrates about the virus and how they should isolate and wear masks and so forth. But no release is going to prevent anybody from being released due to COVID inside the facility.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. We will look at this time to move into our vaccine update section of the agenda. We are going to, our goal will be a 10 a.m. conclusion of this meeting due to other meetings that that are public meetings that we have to get to. So we're going to jump into the vaccine update, get through our announcements, and then adjourn the meeting. So Warden, we'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. We've been trying to work with the local hospital as well as Geisinger. They're trying to get the A1 out as fast as possible, and with the new update, they placed us in 1B, which before it was unclear where we were at, 1A, 1B. I still feel we should be 1A, just because we deal with exposures as well as just trying to deal with our everyday life with this COVID. But however, we had a meeting last week with the Department of Health and explained to them. Geisinger was on the call, Prime Care was on the call. So it's a little frustrating when they really don't know the functionality of the jail, of how people work or how our correctional staff works and how the congregated setting is. I mean, they understand nursing homes, but they don't understand the jail. And that's kind of really hurtful for us that work in this field as well as incarcerated individuals that's in here. So moving forward, we're hoping to get the vaccine as soon as possible. I don't have a date. We've been pushing the hospitals, trying to get signed up as much as possible. Prime Care has been on the Department of Health trying to get vaccines for the jails. They have 31 jails out of 61 that they're trying to get for as well. So they're lobbying for us. And we're trying to lobby as well with the Department of Health and Geisinger Hospital currently. So that's it, sir.
Thank you, Warden. And one of the things that we've encountered is, or not encountered, but the FDA and the Federal Health and Human Services Office on Tuesday, earlier this week, we'll say, either Monday or Tuesday, released that they are now saying that individuals that are over the age of 65 should be taken from a later category and put into the 1A category. And so, as the warden said, correctional officers and essentially anybody who works in the correctional facility for the county is in that 1B category. And what that essentially means is that we would have in Center County over 20,000 people would go from a later category into 1A. And so the way that the vaccine distribution would have to go is in Center County, there's only been about 3,000 to 4,000 vaccines delivered. So we would need to get 20,000 people vaccinated over the age of 65 and then get to our correctional officers. And so that it would be much easier for us to be able to do as a community, getting correctional officers done, because we have the medical staff at our facility that could do it, do the incarcerated individuals as well, if that was in the 1B category as well, wherever that lands. But to have 20,000 plus individuals, which we certainly appreciate the need to get the vaccine out, but that will be it's going to be a bigger lift to do that. So we have more uncertainty as it comes to this, so we're appreciative of that and trying to do everything we can do to make sure that the warden and his staff know that we want to get them vaccinated as soon as possible. We also have to appreciate that it's been very fluid recently, so we're still waiting from the DOH on that, but there will be more coming on this for sure as we go into the next few days and weeks ahead. It might be very likely that before our next prison board meeting in February that we will be talking about this in an informational session potentially. But any brief questions from the prison board members? We still have District Attorney Cantorna, Controller Moser, and Commissioner Higgins with us, so we still have a quorum. Any questions from the three of them on this?
This is Mark Higgins. I just more like to make a statement in support of the warden, the deputy wardens, and the entire team at the Center County Correctional Facility under very difficult circumstances. I think they're doing a great job and just want to give them some public appreciation for how just mentally difficult it has to be to show up to work knowing that you might be directly exposing yourself to individuals that you know have active COVID. Again, a great appreciation from me for just even showing up to work right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I have to echo that sentiment and what everyone has said, and I can tell you personally, Warden Shell has been very proactive in protecting people that are in there, both staff and ones who are not staff, and helped our office and the judge in identifying and working towards solutions, getting people out of there that shouldn't be in there. So he and his staff have done an outstanding job, and not often you hear members of the prison board who are there to make sure keep us on task being so complimentary to the folks who aren't normally on this call. That's because they work closely with Warden Shell and his staff day to day, and appreciate the honest efforts they do to execute at a very high level and meet the needs of the people that are in there. So thank you to the warden and staff. Thank you, Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that too. Chris and his entire team since March have been doing a phenomenal job at the correctional facility. And I think I'd be remiss if I also didn't just mention or note my frustration that they're not in that 1A category for the vaccine, them and the citizens up there. I think that's a very important population to make sure, especially in the confined spaces that they're in. So that is certainly frustrating, and any way we can help to maybe move up on that list, certainly keep us posted on that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, from the prison board from that perspective. Any questions we'll do very quickly? Any public questions or comments on the vaccine distribution just before we move forward? Okay, seeing none, we will move into our monthly reports. Carrie, we will start with you.
Yes, there we go. Sorry, having trouble. Just briefly, I'll just note that we have our 2020 data for drug overdose deaths in Center County. We ended the year with 14 accidental drug overdose deaths and 3 suicide by drug overdose death. That is an increase slightly from 2019, but not as high as 2018 was. We are doing a full kind of data report looking at several data sets, including emergency department data, 911 calls for overdose, and naloxone data that we can get our hands on. So we're working with the University of Pittsburgh and hope to have that report sometime out in March of this year. That's all I have.
Thank you, Carrie, very much. Thank you. Prison Society, Janet, anything else you'd like to review at this time? Go over?
I don't think we have anything else. Thank you so much.
Okay, absolutely. And then Kathy, please.
I'll be very brief since we've gone so long. Just that, as the warden had said, we do not have trainees right now. As frustrating as that can be, it pales in comparison to keeping everyone safe. So we certainly understand that. prior to them leaving, they had been working more and more on their own furniture refinishing. So there's like 5 pieces, I think, on the floor that they had refinished that looks great. I'm working on, with Marie Hamilton, on trying to create a Zoom for the nonviolent conflict resolution class. Because Marie would love to still be able to teach that. Obviously, going in is not a possibility, and she's, challenged with the technical end of creating a Zoom for that. So I'm working with her on that. Also creating an effective communication class. And other than that, community conferencing is currently looking for its program director. I've got 72 applications along with Evelyn Wald to kind of wade through. So we're very excited about that. And as I said, it's coming and it's going to be great. So that's it. Thank you.
Kathy, if you need help, we can do a link for you for the virtual meeting if you like to. We have access to that.
Oh, great. That's great.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, if you want to send me an email and we can work through that, yeah, we can help you with that.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for those reports. We appreciate your patience as we get through our agenda here. Our next meeting will be February 11th, 2021, 8 a.m., and we will be doing that virtual through this Blue Jeans platform. And we look forward to seeing you then. Anything else in the last few minutes, any announcements or other big things we wanted to let anybody else know about before we look to adjourn? Okay, we're hearing none. Again,
Monday.
Oh, no, go ahead, Chris, please.
Just saying that we have to make motion that we had a executive meeting on Monday at
yes.
2:00 to discuss legal matters.
Yes. We held it was about maybe 20-30 minute long meeting to discuss legal matters, as the warden said, Monday the 4th, January 4th. So thank you, Warden, for catching that before we adjourned. So that'll be in the minutes. We'll go from there. Seeing no further agenda items before us, we'd look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Commissioner Higgins.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Take care, everybody. Be well, be safe.